Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my channel, and today we are finally looking at chapter 8, which is safety and security. So mainly we'll be looking at how do you stay safe using your computer, how do you stay safe online, how do you stay safe within your lab. So the objectives or main things we'll be looking at, first of all, look at physical safety. How do you stay safe from physical things, maybe within your lab, like electrocution, fire hazards? And how do you stay safe from electronic, like electronically, data protection, viruses and all those things? And when you use social media generally and other electronic side. So when we talk about physical safety, first of all, we're looking at dangers associated with the use of ICT equipment. So when you use a computer, when you're in an ICT lab, a lot of things can go wrong. So how do you stay safe from those things? So possible issues could be personal injury. You could get electrocuted because your computers are connected to electricity, and you could trip on cables if they are not properly passed through conduit, and then we could have fire hazard. So the key thing here will be how do we stay safe from this, and what are some of the possible causes. So when we start with personal injuries, possible causes of this could be falling on heavy equipment from decks. So maybe a computer falls from a desk, it could hurt you. Use of undersized decks, so you could have decks that cannot support the weight of your computers, so that can also be a problem. And then how could we prevent such issues? Ideally, the thing is, ensure we should use strong desks or tables for our computers, and then we should use large enough decks so that you have enough room to work, and decks without a computer probably falling on you. And then we'll go to electrocution, and there we are looking at what are some possible causes of electrocution. Could be exposed wires in computer cables, so you could have exposed wires. It could also be poorly insulated electrical equipment, and then you could also have spilling of liquids on electrical equipment, which is why while I'm teaching, I always tell my students no water in the lab, and almost every lab has this rule: no water in the lab, no liquids, no food generally. So what we do here, some ways you could prevent this is you check that all cables are regularly. You check all your cables regularly to ensure they are in good conditions. You replace worn out cables, make use of residual current breaker, so you ensure the place is properly wired. Maybe this might not be from your side, but from the lab technician, or if you have information, if you are learned about this, those are things you should also take care of. So do not bring liquid into the lab, that's very important. And next we'll look at fire hazard. What are some fire hazards? Causes could be overloading of wall socket. So at times they tell you don't plug too many things in the wall. Yes, every socket you see or the wiring has standards, and the carrying capacity per socket usually might not be as much as you think. So watching out for that is very important. Overheating of computer systems. Some computers overheat to the point where they start fires. And then we also have short circuits from exposed wires, which is why we'll talk about good circuit breakers, which can trip in cases of this short circuit. And now we have preventive measures. So one good thing is increase the number of wall sockets. Have as much wall sockets in the lab as possible, and then clean dust from computers regularly. Those are causes of heat, and your computer could overheat from a lot of dust. You could also have proper service or periodic servicing of computers, and opening up your computer periodically to clean it. And then it could also be testing equipment regularly to ensure they are working very well. And then we could also have physical safety issues from tripping on wires, so trailing wires. So that's why within a lab we have need to ensure that you use cables to properly, or cable ducts to properly channel cables to avoid trailing wires. And then we could have damaged flooring on a wire guide, so that could also cause harm or bring about physical safety issues. And so generally using cable ducts, using maybe wireless devices, if you can afford that, is also good to avoid such trailing cables. And then now as we always do, when we look at something, if there are possible questions, we also look at that. So one exam question maybe from 2022 March 20. So the questions is: the office must be a safe working environment. State two physical safety issues that might exist from the introduction of computers. Now, in an office environment, generally introducing computers brings about safety, as we just discussed. So possible answers could be any of these. They want just two, so you could pick any two from here, and you're good to go. I mean, as I always say, ICT is mostly things that happen around you. If you use a computer, just pay attention to certain little things, and even the questions they give in the exam are things that are kind of, you can take it as personal, like your experience. And you find tripping over trailing cables, fire caused by overheating computers, all are simple things that you could possibly think of. And also, another question says, many company computer network systems use Wi-Fi as a communication to help prevent the issues of what? Tripping over trailing cables. So for each of the following physical safety issues, describe two ways of helping to prevent them. So the first physical safety issue is what? Fires. Now what do we say? How can you prevent fires? You could use carbon dioxide fire extinguishers. Yes, you can do overload socket. Don't overload socket, as we discussed. You should also have ensure like your computer has fans. Most heavy duty computers have fans, so you ensure that all properly working. And then you should also use residual circuit breakers to ensure in case of naked or tripping wires, your circuit breaker can pick that up. And then electrocution: don't bring drinks or liquids to the lab. Cover, insulate, or live bare wires. So if you have wires that are bare, or cables that are not properly insulated, you ensure that is also taken care of. Now that is it about physical safety, like things that could happen. And I would say they are largely under your control. But now, when we transition to e-safety, electronic safety, so this one now it's safety, which refers to safe and how responsible use of it teaches, like it talks about how you can use a computer or the internet or social media responsibly, and also how you stay safe from people maybe bullying you over the net and all the rest. So a lot of online gaming is also taking place. How do you stay safe using playing games online with people you don't know, people you've never met? So the first thing we'll look at when we talk about e-safety, I picked this from somewhere, from a blog. They say SMART. So SMART, that's e-safety. Their own way of defining it. Say, so S stands for stay safe. M, don't meet with people. A, accepting files, so you don't accept files from people or emails you don't know. Reliable, whatever you're looking at, is it reliable? Is the information reliable? If you have a problem, you tell someone, involve your parents, someone, your guardians, and the rest. So this is kind of a summary of all safety rules. If you've done ICT, at some point you are taught e-safety rules. So how do you stay safe online? So this is just a summary of what we'll be digging deep into. Now the first thing we'll look at is Data Protection Acts. So basically every country, or say most developed countries, they have data protection acts, and these simply are rules designed to protect individuals and to prevent incorrect or inaccurate storage of data. Like when you use social media like Facebook, WhatsApp, TikTok, and all those things, there needs to be some data protection acts. You supply them your names and all those things when you want to register. What do they do with that data? So that is very important. That is where the data protection acts come into play. Now, generally data protection acts protect the right of individuals from what? From the right of the individual from whom data is being collected. So when your data is collected, where you're entering your details online, where is that data being stored? Who do they disclose that data to? So that is the main role of data protection. So this is very important for you to be aware of this. So some principles of data protection acts actually exist some countries actually follow that. I mean, a lot of countries. So the first thing is data must be fairly and lawfully processed. So if they collect your data, it must be fairly and lawfully processed. I don't know if you've been looking out a lot of these social media companies that have been to court, or they have been charged for data piracy and all those things, but selling data to other companies. So it's because they breach the Data Protection Act. And then we also have the purpose of the data must be stated. If they're collecting your data, it must be stated why that data is being collected. And the collected data must be adequate, relevant, and not excessive. And it should not be kept longer than the stated duration. So if data is meant to be kept for 1 day, it should be kept for that 1 day and maybe deleted or trashed somehow. And then it must be well secured, so that you shouldn't collect your data and then it's just there and people can steal it. There's a lot of identity theft going on. What if they steal your personal information? So all these have to be taken into consideration. So failure to follow these rules can lead to what? Fines or imprisonment, which is why some companies or organizations end up in court because of such issues. Now, how do we prevent unlawful data access? As personally, think about how can you prevent unlawful data access. First thing is ensure personal data is not left lying around unattended to. You don't just go around telling people your name, writing your name, giving people some of your security details and all those things. That is how your data can easily be stolen. Do not leave sensitive data on computer monitors unattended. Yeah, there are people when maybe you log into a computer and you just maybe step out if you work in a place, and before you know it, somebody has entered into your system. You can install malware and all those things and then be tracking whatever you're doing. So those are things you need to be careful about. And then use strong password and user IDs to secure your computers. Regularly change your password and login IDs, and do not share sensitive information through emails or fax. So these are just things I believe that are very important for you to be aware of. Now we look at a question related to what we just discussed. A patient has injury and the doctor treating him needs to find out information about the patient. Most of the data he needs to collect is personal data. Now the data collected is protected by data protection legislation. Most data protection acts include the principle that data should be kept confidential and secure. Now they say we should list for other principles of typical data protection acts. So they've given you one. They want you to list 4 others. So any 4 from here. Data should be fairly and lawfully processed. Data should be collected for specific purposes. Data should not be kept longer than necessary. Data should be accurately kept up to date and all those things. So any from here should be fine. Now we talked about personal data. Now you ask, what is personal data? What are some things that are considered personal data? So it could be your name, your home address, your IP address, your email address, ID card, passport number, date of birth, banking details, photograph. All these things we've mentioned are personal data that can be used to identify you. It can be used to hurt you. It can be used to get access to you unlawfully and all those things. So all of this should be kept very private. And then some personal data is considered very sensitive and should be handled with extra care. There are areas where you don't want people to know your political views. It could become a problem. And then you also have issues of political affiliations. People have could also be a problem. And then religious beliefs, sexual orientation, gender, criminal records, medical history, ethnicity, and race. So these are some sensitive personal data. So all this list here is a combination of personal data, and you should know that some of it is very sensitive more than the others, which is why in some areas you don't mention certain things. It's because of all of this awareness of these things. Now they say explain what is meant by personal data. Include 2 examples of personal data in your answer. This is a very easy question. So there are examples of personal data. I mean, tons of them: name, address, date of birth, gender, biometrics, and all those things. Those are all personal data. And then they say explain why personal data should be kept confidential and secure. So first and foremost, the person can be thoroughly identified from the data. Data is confidential as it links directly to the person. If someone gains access to your data, the information can be used to attack you. If not kept confidential and secure, it could but lead to home burglary. Yeah, people could get your home address and maybe come to vandalize you or steal from your home. So those are things why that is why or you could even be speaking to somebody out of goodwill, but the person takes it badly and getting your home address, the person could come to hurt you. So all of this should be taken into consideration. Now when using the internet, how do you stay safe? So there are some rules or how do you behave online. It's very important. Now first thing we need to talk about is ensure the website you visit use are what secured by looking for what HTTP or the padlock sign. We've discussed this before. Only do online shopping on sites with encrypted connection that payment option. So the actually sites which are kind of excuse me, just there to steal or to channel get your banking details now. So always be ensure your site is secure. Always conduct online search in safe search with high level of security. So that's important. Only use recommended or trusted website by teachers or parents. So don't just be hear something from your friend and before you know it you're browsing it. That could be a problem. Be careful of what you download from online. Some things you download are actually viruses, malware, phishing scams and all those things. Always sign out from sites after using them. So particularly if using public computers and public networks, so that becomes very important. Now how do you stay safe sending and receiving emails? So what are the ideal or what are the recommended route to follow? So only open email attachments or links from known sources. Ensure your internet service provider has effective email filtering for spams. So that's also very important. There are a lot of people using spams to steal from people and all the rest. Only reply to emails from people you know or have a good idea of the email origin. So people just make up email addresses and it could be your email address and they use that to target you. So be careful about that. Always ensure you don't mention personal information like your school when you reply to email. So be very cautious of what you tell people online, particular people you don't know, and then ensure emails with company addresses are well checked to match, because somebody could write a fake email saying that, oh, you've gotten this from this company. I mean, a lot of people are being scammed with this method. You've gotten this so and so thing from this company. Maybe they'll say you need to pay money for shipping, and when you pay the money, you are scammed. So that has to be, you have to look out for that. So manually type in email addresses. So don't save your email addresses and password on computers and all the like. So avoid clicking on hyperlinks within emails and take care when copying or forwarding emails to multiple people. And now, how do you stay safe online when you're using social media? We all use social media. I use social media. I believe you might be using too. But notwithstanding, how do you stay safe online? First, do not send personal photos to people you don't know. Make use of privacy setting when posting photos online. You could post photos, yes, and restrict maybe just your friends, because there are options. So you should look out for those ones. Restrict maybe just your friends, restrict maybe just friends of your friends and all those things, not the public. So that's also very things you could consider doing. Do not give out personal information to people you do not know. Ensure photos you post online can not link you to a place. So in some cases people have gotten into trouble, maybe, or put themselves into trouble, giving real life feed, real life location details and all the rest. So you have to also take that into consideration when using social media. Avoid forwarding inappropriate messages. So don't just get messages from people and you spread it out like wildfire. So that's also very inappropriate and wrongful use of the internet. Always respect other people's confidentiality. So that's very important. Never arrange to meet with people you don't know. Report any form of online abuse to an adult. So if someone invites you, you don't know the person, don't show up. Report any form of online abuse. That is how you stay safe online. Now we transition. I don't know what you can grab from this picture, but it's what happens now in the world. Social media draining a lot of people. I mean, so just take a minute to cool down and Voila. The next thing we look at is online gaming. Another big thing, I'll say a big thing going on. A lot of people play games online, spend all their times in their houses and all those things, playing games globally and the rest. So, but how do you stay safe? So what are some risks associated with online gaming? So, you need to be aware of online predators in gaming environment, that people actually come there just to do harm or cause harm. There's also cyberbullying. So people that's threatening or intimidating electronic messages people online. So that's cyberbullying. So avoid the use of webcams. So don't be playing games live feed where they are seeing you. You might want to avoid that unless you know the person you're playing with. Use of voice masking technology. So people use voice masking technology and you won't know if that's the real person speaking. So possible cyber attacks. Game violence can translate to violent behavior in the individual. Yes, people see what happens in the game and they want to actually do it in physical life. It's just a game, and you want to do that in physical life, and it could cause a lot of problems. So be conscious of that. And common use of a computer is online gaming, as we discussed. Describe three safety measures which should be taken when playing games on the internet. So first of all, respect others. Check game ratings for age, so don't play games that are inappropriate for your age. Report or block cyber bullies. Reduce the amount of time spent gaming. Be careful of in-app purchases. Turn on privacy setting and many others. And very important thing, use a nickname. If you are playing games online, don't use your real names. Why? Protect your personal data. And another question is, in order to log into online gaming, a user ID and password is needed. Now they say explain what is meant by a user ID and password, why they are needed. So what is a user ID, what is a password? That's a pretty simple question. So user ID and this by the user type, that's just it. A password is just characters. A string of characters that make up the or that it just helps you to get access to a system in addition to the ID. So they are needed to what improve security. Using both ID and password what will give you unique authentication. So that is unique to you and maybe not another person. Now, how do now we look at data security? So data, what we also need to understand is the fact that data stored in a computer or being transferred around network is what usually prone to what a lot of security threats. So that's what we're going to be looking at now: hacking, phishing, smishing, farming. We've looked at some of these things already, so I will quickly rush about it, and you can always slow down the video or you can read through the presentation. So these are just some illustrations here. So these are possible things. If someone hacks into your computer, hacking mainly is what gaining unauthorized access to a computer system and another person's computer system, obviously. So hacking can lead to what identity theft, misuse of personal data, deletion of data or of data. So people could hack into system just to delete data, to steal banking details and all those things. And how to prevent hacking? Make use of what? Strong password. Use strong password. Use strong firewalls. Use anti-hacking softwares, and then use user IDs and strong password. That way, you increase your security level and unique authentication. Now, other data threat or security threats we look at is phishing. So when we talk about phishing, it involves what? Use of legitimate looking emails. So people send you legitimate looking emails, like I said previously. Maybe it looks like it's from a company, but whereas it's not, to target a user's computer. So when a user computer is accessed, when you click, so you have to give them access. So which is why you have to be very careful to click on a link or attachment in the email. So the email once look like what? It comes from a trusted source and takes you to fake websites where you are fooled into giving out what? Your personal data. So maybe they will say you have to create an account to win a certain amount of money. That is a way. Once you start creating an account, they ask for your name, this name. Maybe they'll even ask you to upload photos and all those things. They'll steal your personal data. So people who create this are actually they want to steal information from you, and preventing this requires that you should be cautious. Just have to be very cautious when you're opening emails or attachment, and do not click on extensions you don't know, especially this one .exe .bad.com and all those things. So you should watch out when you click on such exposure. Use internet service provider and browsers with what phishing filters. And now smishing is another form. Smishing is a form of what phishing, which involves use of what they use SMS system to send fake messages. So the text message contains number or links. It could link a user. They provide you with a link. You could maybe asking you to call, and when you call or dial the number, they can steal bank details from your phone. So there are a lot of crafty ways people have developed to actually steal. And we also have phishing. Is another form of phishing. This one, the message to avoid, they send you a voicemail message to trick you into calling them back, and when you call them back, maybe you are asked to give them some personal information. They could also lie to you, maybe that you won something, or you won a lottery, or whatever it is. So be careful for all these things. The next thing we're looking at is farming. So when we talk about farming, it's malicious code. Is also code is installed on a user's computer on a web server. So ideally, there's always that part where something has to be installed, or you have to give access. So the malicious code can redirect you to a fake site without your knowledge. So that's the issue. Creators of this malicious code can what? They can steal your personal details, credit card details, bank details, farming, and all those things can also lead to what? Identity theft. Now, how do you prevent this? You could use anti-spyware software, which can remove an identity and delete harming code. Always stay alert when browsing. That is one of the best preventive methods. Is always be alert when you're browsing, and look out for clues that can show that you are being redirected, or so someone is just sitting somewhere getting information from your computer. Now we look at viruses and malware. I think we've looked a lot about viruses and malware of viruses. So basically, when we talk about malware, there are various forms, and have various threats also, and integrity. How they pose threat and integrity on the security of data. So we could have antiviruses generally, which could help to remove these viruses or malware. And basically we have a variety of them. We could have ransomware, worms, Trojan horse, adware, keyloggers, viruses, and the rest. So now we'll look at what each stands for. So when we talk about a virus, we're looking at programs or software that can replicate. They could copy themselves within the user's computer. So with the intention of deleting, corrupting your files. It could do a lot of things, and some of the effects are it can cause your computer to start malfunctioning. You could delete your files. You could corrupt your operating system. And preventing for viruses, usually use antivirus. You should be careful when opening email attachment, and do not use software from unknown sources. And then we'll talk about worms. We're looking at description. We'll look at there are actually also forms of viruses we can safe replicate, and they are also capable of spreading in the whole computer and corrupting the whole network. So that's a problem, and they are inbuilt to computer software or email. So you can actually build a worm into a legitimate software. That way they use it to get access to your computer. So it generally spreads throughout the network and corrupts files and the network. So that's how they attack computer systems. And prevention generally is you just use up-to-date antivirus, carry out regular antivirus scans, and being cautious too does stuff. And then we'll look at Trojan horse. Basically, there are also viruses, malicious program which often appears as legitimate, but has some embedded malicious code. So a Trojan horse is capable of replacing legitimate software and causes harm to the computer after you've installed them. And effects could be, can give cyber criminals access to your computer. They could install spyware to steal passwords, IP addresses, and the rest. Trojan horses generally is quite difficult to prevent them, but being cautious using antivirus software could help. And then key logging software. Here we're looking at they are just form of spyware that monitors a user's keyboard. So as you type on your keyboard every day, it gathers information about that. It is designed to gather keystrokes, so and automatically email small files to cyber criminals. So with that, they can make sense maybe of your password. They can make sense of what you type every day. They could make sense of what you type into your online platforms, and they could use that to capture your personal data, bank account details. And some few ways to prevent it is use up-to-date anti-spyware, and regularly change your password, and use different access options. Maybe there are different access options. Some could some are type in, some are you just click and scroll down and select something, and that way you don't have to they can't monitor your keystroke. Now hardware also generally it floods user with unwanted advertising. So that's hardware, particularly on phones. A lot of people are suffering from this on their phones. Hijacks your browser. Your phone freezes. Hardware has taken over. Unwanted pop-ups. You're browsing or you're doing something, pop-ups just come up. And then use anti-malware. Do not click on untrusted links. At times it's just because you clicked on a link. So that link now, that's what most sites do now. They keep recommending those kind of things, and they just pop up out of nowhere and all the rest. And then we'll talk about ransomware. Generally the programs that encrypt data in someone's computer system and holds it hostage. So the owner are often asked to pay for the decryption key. So that's what ransomware does. And immediate encryption so it immediately encrypts your data. It kind of locks your data, and then they'll blackmail you. And then prevention is generally you could use avoid phishing emails, and usually regularly back up important files, such that if they even attack your files, you could use your backup to do whatever you have to do. And other security of data or data threats are also debit and credit card fraud. There's a lot of fraud going on, particularly in Western countries. Illegal use of people's debit or credit card. They just steal your credit card details, and they can use it, even stealing your card and using it to do purchases online and all that. So when you're using your credit card, people could, or your bank card in ATMs, people could show that self and kind of watch what you're typing. So always be cautious of that. Some people are able to clone cards, so it's also clone your card and use it, and any purchase they make flags becomes like your own. So immediately any of this is noticed, you have to inform the respective authorities and ensure shield, like you're trying to use an ATM, you shield yourself and put the code, and don't key in bank details on mobile devices in public places. Some people just be sniffing around, so be watchful of the security cameras that can record. So some cameras, actually people position cameras in places to record people's other people's activity, password and the rest. And if possible, use biometric access method. That way someone cannot easily steal your fingerprint. And now we look at data protection. How do we protect data? There are various authentication techniques. We discussed security issues. Now we look at how do we stay more secure. What are some ways that are used to fight against these issues? We have biometrics, digital certificates, secure socket layers, encryption, firewalls, and the rest. So let's discuss. We will discuss a little bit about all of this. Now, the first thing is biometric authentication. So to gain access maybe to a system, let's say there's some future city, they just need to scan your face, or they could need your fingerprint, or they could need your iris scanner, scan your retina. Some they use voice recognition system and all the rest. So that's basically biometric, using unique features in a human being, such as your fingerprint, your signature, eye scans, and the rest, to gain access to a system. And today, if you look around, most phones, laptops, tablets, and the rest, they make use of biometric authentication system, which is makes them even more secure than using passwords. Now let's look at each of these biometric authentication systems and what are the advantages and disadvantages. Starting with fingerprint, they have very high accuracy, and they're also very easy to use. Looking at disadvantages, some people find it intrusive, and at times it's prone to mistakes for dirty and damaged skin. So if you have dirty and damaged skin, even at times the screen too, if you're not working well, you could have issues. Signature recognition, so very short verification time, relatively low cost technology. Signature must be consistent, so it becomes a problem. If you cannot sign your signature the same way, the same every time, it becomes a problem. So iris recognition, so fast verification time, high accuracy, very intrusive. Yeah, you have to put your eye somewhere, and so it uses a lot of memory for data storage, so that's also an issue. And then we'll look at face recognition, basically scanning your face and gaining access, though is a non-intrusive, relatively inexpensive, affected by what lighting condition. At times if it's in the dark you cannot see your face, affected by facial hair, age, and all the rest. Voice recognition, so it's quite non-intrusive and also has a fast verification time, and relatively inexpensive. However, a voice can easily be cloned and used illegally, so low accuracy. So those are also things or issues you need to understand when you consider any of these biometric authentication systems. Now the next thing is digital certificate. We'll talk about digital certificate. Digital certificate does not mean here we're not looking at maybe something, a certificate that's been printed. No. Here particularly it relates to emails. So a digital certificate generally is a pair of files stored on a user's computer to ensure security of data sent over the internet. So when you send data over the internet, there's a digital certificate. Those are some of the things they use to track to know exactly where that data came from. That way they can say, oh, this data came from this computer at this time, and what name, who is the owner of that computer, they know it's you. So that is where all of these things come from. Now a digital certificate often has a public key which can be accessed by anyone, and a private key which is only known to the computer user. Now a digital certificate usually attached to an email to ensure security and authenticity of the email. That's how when you someone sends you an email, you can see the person's email address, you can see when the person sent the email and all those things. So, and maybe the people he has copied, or he or she has copied, the people he or she has replied, and all those things. So those are the all digital certificates. So generally it's a digital certificate is made up of 6 parts. So 6 main parts: the sender's email address, the name of the sender, the serial number of certificate, the validity of the certificate, public key, digital signature of certificate authority, such as what the very sign. So these are things we should take note of. Now we could also have secure socket layers. So these are all authentication things, the ways that are used to secure system to ensure that hackers or all this phishing farming, they don't get access to them. Now we have secure socket layers. It's actually a protocol that ensures secure communication over the internet. So this is what is used, which is why we say look out for padlock sign. It actually comes from secured socket layers. So they can be verified after logging onto a website by this reference of presence of S in HTTP website. So this is an example. This is secure. This is not secure. This is secure. So some website will display this way, some will display with an S. So always look out for that. So the next thing is now we'll have a question. The transactions with banks website use a variety of technology, including secure socket layers. Explain what is meant by SSL. Now they have not told you the name, so you need to know the meaning of this SSL. It's important that you know that it's secure socket layer, because if you don't know the meaning, you don't know what to write. So first of all, how to explain what is meant by secure socket layer. First, a user ID identifies the user. A password is a string of characters that make up the, I think I mixed up somewhere here. Yeah, I think I mixed up somewhere here. Let's explain what is meant by secure socket layer, including your answer. But generally, it's here, I guess. You cannot correct that. Sorry for the mistake, but secure socket layer generally, as we saw here, is just ensuring that the website you're visiting has a secure sign like the padlock sign. So that's what so you look out for the padlock sign. You should ensure that your website you're using is secured. So if you don't have a padlock sign, you avoid using such website. So basically that's the explanation. And now encryption is another way data can be encrypted. So when we talk about encrypting, it's like you take, I'll use picture to explain it. You take plain text, you encrypt it. Encrypting means like that text is changed into maybe numbers, a mixture of numbers and letters. So there are special softwares that do this. After you encrypt the text, you get a key from that text. So like a key could be password or something like that. And now you can send that the information or the text to somebody. If that person must have the decryption key to be able to access that data. That's why encryption becomes important. So generally, this is what some communication networks make use of for data transfer. So they encrypt your data when you send it from one place, and then it's decrypted at the receiving end. So it's very important. So why do we encrypt data? First of all, to guard against risks of hacking. Also, it ensures privacy in communication, because people can tap into a line and they can listen in on your calls. They can tap in on your messages. So encryption helps in preventing that, and then it also protects sensitive information. So these are all things that you should consider ensuring they are available for the systems you use, so that you stay safe while using them. Now here we have keeping data secure is very important in any computer system. Many organizations use encryption when sending data. Describe the term encryption. First, encryption is what? Scrambling of data. So plain text is turned into what? Characters or series of code, and then it changes the data into a form that is what? Not understandable. It requires the intended receiver to have a decryption. So you must have a decryption key to gain access to the data. So encryption is done using what? An encryption key, and code which changes plain text into ciphertext, which must be decrypted to gain access. So it's mainly prevents hacking and all the rest. Now we also look into firewalls. Firewalls basically form like a bridge or a block between your computer and the internet. So basically they protect you against malware and all the rest. So generally we call it firewall, but it's not a wall. It's just software that is installed as part of the operating. They come as part of the operating system, but more robust firewalls exist out there, which could help for further protection if need be. Some firewalls could be hardware like a gateway, which can monitor communication between a network and firewalls. So generally what they are able to filter incoming and outgoing network traffic to ensure what? Secure communication. So some tasks performed by a firewall, generally it's able to examine your network traffic between incoming and outgoing communication. It's also able to check outgoing and incoming data to meet particular standards, and it's able to block data that does not meet the required criteria for transmission. That way it ensures everything is secure, and it can be used to prevent access to undesirable sites. And firewalls can also prevent viruses and hackers. That's some website, if you go to, your firewall would kind of signal it, and it will want you to give it that go ahead to access that website. Maybe that website is not secure. So that is where this software has become very important. Now we also have two-factor authentication. This is used by organizations, particularly like banks, for instance. So it makes use of two forms of verification to verify the user. So it could be a PIN, biometric PIN, and password. So two-factor. So it must be two things to ensure that you are actually the person making the request. So It is mostly used for online banking payments. So apart from providing your card details, a bank can send you a verification code to authorize payment. So the code is either it could be sent directly to your email or your phone number, depending on how you sign up when you were doing that. So maybe you enter your username and password. After you do that, you get to the point where you need to pay. Maybe they'll ask you to provide a number. They'll send or they'll have a default number you gave them or you stored in the system when you were creating your account. They send a text to that number. You input the code. After you input the code, they unlock or they initiate the transaction. So all these steps are very important, and that's where two-factor authentication really becomes very good and a nice security measure. Now, another sample exam question says another way of protecting data is a computer system is to use passwords. They identify methods to prevent hackers from gaining knowledge of someone's password. So how can you prevent hackers from gaining knowledge of your passwords? Use anti-spyware to prevent key login. Change passwords regularly. Use different passwords for each system. Use longer passwords as they are harder to guess. Use strong passwords. We always keep saying about this. You could use biometric password as well, and do not use password that like your name. People can guess your name. Don't use people around password with people close around you. People can always guess that, particularly when you want something really secured. And that brings us to the end of the chapter, and thank you for following this far, and hopefully before I think early next month or before the month runs out, we should have a chapter. We should have chapter 9 video ready. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.